All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for some real people out there just like you and just like me. All right, before I get going, Decoy Without Warning. My friend Tom Mathers over at Paris Records, really great guy. Um, Still doing the record label where a lot of melodic rock labels are, shutting down or they're just doing, older stuff that they're putting out there that has been remastered, which is also a really cool thing to do, by the way. But these guys still putting out new stuff. This features Torben Enevoldsen, the guitarist who was on the first Pinnacle Point album, which is just a superb album from start to finish. Torben, a little bit like Joe Satriani when I listen to him, but I mean, he's got his own thing. Danish guitarist, I believe. And anyway, this is a little darker than some of the stuff I listen to, a little more like Dio, Judas Priest, but has some melodic tendencies that are a little lighter as well. But the guitar work really cooks. And I applaud Tom. Tom sent me the CD, which it's nice not to have to buy stuff. And the reason I say that is because I like to feature physical product in the video so people can just look at the album cover. This is a pretty cool album cover, by the way. And 11 songs here. And they're all really well produced. And again, just for the guitar work alone, I would definitely give this a listen. It's not for everybody, but, I do feature a wide array of styles on this channel. And sometimes I'm like, maybe I should just focus on one or two things. I tend to be more melodic rock focused than anything else. So Decoy, somewhat progressive too, as well, progressive rock tendencies. Speaking of progressive rock, Roger Waters is out there, and he is still out there talking about foreign policy. He went on this podcast called Bad Faith. I'm not sure what that is, but he said some interesting stuff. The interviewer asked Roger, hey, should we be giving aid to Ukraine? We just had this election right here in the United States, or as I was saying, we had these selections. And both political parties here in the US are going to give Ukraine whatever they want. But Roger Waters, see, I don't agree with Roger on a lot of other topics. But on this one, he is spot on, so much so that, when you've got, the what do you want to call it? The Clinton News Network. That's what we used to call it. They're going after Roger. He does an interview and, Roger's views aren't in the mainstream. He's a tinfoil hat guy. I don't know about that. Roger Waters is pretty well read. He seems to be very much on top of world affairs, where a lot of people in this particular business, in the music business, they're just focused on guitars, drums, and bass, which is fine, and vocals. It's fine. It's cool. But Roger knows a lot about this stuff. So when he's asked about Ukraine, he says, well, it would have been cool if there were no military contributions whatsoever to Ukraine. And he says, back in 2007, that's when people should have started negotiating. He talks about the illegal coup that happened in 2014, which, again, the media here in the United States doesn't really care about. Said it was funded by the USA and backed by the CIA. Roger Waters, okay? Anybody who thinks he's not really smart and doesn't know what he's talking about, he talks about Victoria Nuland, the one that doesn't know about the bioweapons stuff going on in Ukraine, and was telling Marco Rubio that, yes, we have these facilities that do experiments, but, we're just worried that the Russians are going to get them. And Rubio obviously on the same page with Victoria Nuland. I mean, it's a folks, it's a uniparty that we have here in the United States. for the most part, on really important issues, it's kind of like a uniparty. That's why I'm kind of I'm just so disappointed in politics these days because then you have this little issue with, did my vote count? Did my vote matter? That sort of thing. And it's a big question mark. And after a while, if you're participating in a system that's broken and nobody wants to fix it for various reasons because they just want to select who they want, again, there's a guy who got in there who had a stroke who doesn't really complete sentences and has to use some sort of teleprompter, which translates the words to a screen, somebody talking to him, and so he can read those words and then come up with answers. And that's who we're putting in the Senate. And yes, we know who the president of the United States is right now. He's a guy who often will leave the podium and try to shake hands with imaginary people. So there you go. That's the United States of America. Anyway, Roger Waters goes on to say, it's not the unipolar world anymore. And a lot of people in the rock industry are thinking, what? It's not cold anymore? It's not unipolar? 3/4 of the world disagrees with the United States and its foreign policy. United States and Western Europe. And that's what Waters is really keying on. So he's a smart guy. I know a lot of people don't like some of his other politics. Like, for instance, I don't agree with Roger Waters when he's talking about equal rights for people who have mental health issues and really need help. And rather than affirming where they are and encouraging more of this type of behavior, at least, when people are younger, especially, that really concerns me. When they're older and they're making ridiculous choices for their lives, I don't really care. If you're older and this is what you want to do, that's up to you. It's not up to me. And I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life. And I would agree with Roger, if you're an adult and you've got informed consent and all that, then sure, do what you want to do. I mean, I'll still say, hey, this behavior, it's kind of destructive. But, Roger's out there and he just writes for these people over here, writes for these people over there. And I'm like, promoting it, I think, increases it. And so I don't agree with Roger. I agree with the premise that everybody should have equal rights under the law in their country, so long as they're an adult, they have informed consent. If they're younger, they should have rights too, but it's a different, I'm going down a rabbit trail here and I don't want to keep going with it, but it's a separate video. Anyway, a lot of people just hate the fact that Roger Waters is political. I used to really hate it. I've kind of gotten over it because I kind of agree with Roger and his point of view needs to get out there because it's the minority view in the world. It's just people don't, at least in media, he's claiming that most of these countries don't think we should have this unipolar world anymore where it's really cold. So I think we're going to have a multipolar world going forward. And I think Roger is definitely onto it. So in any event, Roger Waters, who was on tour with his This Is Not a Drill tour and doing all kinds of Pink Floyd music from the early days into his solo career. The guy's an icon. He is a legend. I think he's 78 years old and still seems really sharp. He's never been a great singer, but he doesn't have to be. He just can do what he's always done, and it tends to work and it tends to be effective. If you're not a fan of Pink Floyd, I get it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. However, Roger and his solo material coupled with the work he did with Pink Floyd, I think it's a pretty interesting concert. I don't know if I would go. I mean, if Roger wanted, to send me over to the UK, I think it's next June, July. I think there are a couple of dates that he's got planned over at the O2. Yeah, June 6th at the O2 and then June 7th. So back-to-back dates at the O2 Arena in London. beautiful London, England, another Western country walking in lockstep with the United States. And it's, yeah, to the detriment of the rest of the world. But what are you going to do, right? You can't vote them out. You have no recourse. Let's get back to Decoy before I leave here. Decoy, without warning, pretty cool. Tom Mathers, he's the man. Paris Records, tell them, the RMO, you saw this, you were so mad at the RMO, but you decided to order it anyway. Or at least just check it out. Ordering a copy would be cool. It would be countercultural. And again, like I always say, with a picture album cover like this, makes a great coaster. Put your icy cold adult beverage right on there and just crank the music up, or just tell people, hey, why do you have this weird looking CD thing on your counter? Those still exist? And you're like, yeah, I just bought this from Paris Records. So yeah, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Sorry that I'm a little strange. And I will, of course, see you really soon.